In a big switch as the election approaches, industrial northern states are rallying to Trump, even as his gains in the South are eroding somewhat. Now, right now, as the election stands, and we're doing this at about noon on Saturday, Trump is either ahead or tied for 284 electoral votes. You need 270 to win. Those are the 206 that Romney won 4 years ago, all of which Trump is leading in, including North Carolina, where the latest poll has him 7 ahead. That had been a little iffy. So that's 206 votes. Then add to it Ohio, where he's 3.3 ahead. That's 18 votes. And add 6 for Iowa, where he's ahead. And that brings you up to 230 electoral votes, where Trump is clearly ahead. Then you have 5 states where Trump is tied. And those 5 states have a total of 54 votes, which would bring him up to 284. And they are Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Colorado. You notice I didn't include Florida, where Hillary now is leading by 1.2 in the Real Clear Politics average. It really is possible for Trump to win this election without carrying Florida. And that's because the industrial states of the Northeast are really rallying to him in a way that they never have rallied to a Republican in many, many, many years, ever since Reagan. And this could portend major changes for the Republican Party's future and for the Democratic Party's future, because the downscale, blue-collar, white, high school-educated vote is now moving in Trump's direction. Normally, that vote breaks at the end for the Democrats. And instead of it breaking for the Democrats, it's now breaking in Trump's favor. And since those voters tend to make their decisions very late in the process, it's animating a very crucial Trump surge. Shockingly, Trump is tied in Pennsylvania. And according to at least one poll, is tied in Michigan as well. And there's a private poll that puts Trump 3 ahead in Michigan. Symptomatic of how Trump is doing is that Hillary has scheduled an event for the weekend in Detroit. Unheard of for a Democrat to have to campaign in Detroit on the eve of the election, or in Michigan. So this trend is fascinating. In fact, if you take the 4 northern industrial sort of Rust Belt states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, those 4 states at the moment show Trump running 4.9 points better than Romney did. On the other hand, if you take 4 southern states, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, and Florida, Trump is running 2.9 points worse than Romney did in those states. So the traditional Republican vote appears to be moving rather lethargic about Trump, rather apathetic about him, while the traditional blue-collar Democratic vote seems to be going in Trump's favor. Another factor that might exist here is that the Democratic primary showed real weakness for Hillary in the African-American populations in the North. That's why Michigan went for Bernie Sanders. But in the South, it showed virtually solid black support for Hillary. She won all of those states on Super Tuesday. And that may lie behind some of the turnout numbers and the vote numbers that we're seeing now. In any case, I personally think that Trump is probably going to catch up in Florida. The early voting shows that African Americans are casting only 16% of the early voting, whereas before, 4 years ago, they cast 25%. So a weaker turnout there. And if he wins Florida, and he wins the other states we talked about, he'd be at 314 electoral votes. There's a fascinating thing going on about Maine that's worth just noting. They changed their law so that they give 4 electoral votes, but it will no longer go to the statewide winner. 2 will, And then they have 2 congressional districts, one Democrat right along the coast with Portland and Kennebunkport, and the other the entire rest of the state. And that coastal one is usually Democrat, and the rest of the state is usually Republican. And it looks like Trump may pick up 1 electoral vote out of Maine, which could be very important because there are some models that have him at 269 electoral votes, and that could be the 270th. So I'm going to be doing videos throughout the weekend and Monday as ideas come. And in addition, on election night, I'm going to be doing videos very frequently as the results are coming in. We won't make them lunches because we'll have lunch alert and then dinner alert and then late night snack alert, and you could gain too much weight. Thanks for watching.